Sons and daughters of God, children of the light, I, the great divine director, send forth the ray of divine consciousness of the will of God, that you might follow the divine path that your presence has dreamed and held out for you since your first incarnation. The Manus of the root races hold in their consciousness the archetypal pattern of each of the life waves that come forth under their charge. Many of you have been an embodiment, hundreds if not thousands of times, working through your destiny, putting on the garments of Christ virtue, striving mightily to commune with the presence of God. And though in many incarnations you knew not what to call that God, how to speak or listen to that God, or even to acknowledge that God exists at all, you nonetheless had the flame upon the altar of your heart that was the constant reminder of good, of virtue, of quality that reached beyond the level of what would be presented by the human striving, but would have the intrinsic value through and through of something almost unworldly. You blessed hearts recognized beauty, joy, love, sacrifice, striving, and the constancy required to have communion with the holy angels that tended to your flame. Now that you have come to the realization of how to call to the mighty I Am presence, how to proclaim I am, how to stand in the glory of God and have the virtue that is the natural estate of one's being in purity and perfection. You blessed hearts, create your world. You begin to refine it, fashioning those things in life that heretofore you have thought were merely in the circle of your influence by what others had accomplished, what others had done, what you had received from your social interactions. But you should now be fully vested with the truth of cosmic law, that all that you are and all that you ever hope to be is because your mighty I Am presence has divinely ordained that your life would follow a certain path, a prescription of affairs that you would engage in to have the lessons, the teaching, the instruction that you require. Far too many times you ignored those, thinking that surely the presence of God would not speak in such simplistic terms. But oftentimes, the greatest lessons of all can be spoken by a little child. You, blessed hearts, have a burning upon the altar of your heart the flame of God that is the natural estate of the truth of your identity. It is when you bring forth that Christ light that all in the purview of your life are touched by the presence of God. All that you bring forth are the fruits of divine wholeness. All that you establish as a way of life is beautiful, holding to the high vibration that allows your Holy Christ presence to be ever close at hand, overshadowing your vehicles of consciousness, ready to respond on the instant, ready to be the presence of God. Many call forth divine direction into their life. But how many truly stay the course long enough to hear the answer? Those who come in a flash of light and think that surely within a finite period of time they should have received some blessing at their design. But the way of your mighty I Am presence is not always as you would fashion it in your outer consciousness. That which comes as the will of God in your life is not always kept to your timetable and cycle. For the presence of God knows all of the details required for you to receive every jot and tittle of energy, light, momentum, opportunity, divine intercession, mercy. All this, blessed ones, is under the auspices and God control of your mighty I Am presence. Oh yes, you do have free will. But that free will is either to be in the presence of God, communing in the light of God, listening to the Christ virtues as you enact the God qualities and establish momentums of that Christhood through the virtues. Not ignoring the presence of God, which is the other choice. As you have already heard this evening, you cannot serve two masters. Either the human ego must go into the flame, surrendering all that it thinks it is, all that it has amassed as trickery and manipulation throughout your many incarnations. And allow for the mind of God to be the guiding light and divine force of will. Many think that if they give up somehow the control over their life to this seemingly unseen God, that somehow they will lose themselves, and worse, lose their way. But when you truly know the flame upon the altar of your heart, and begin to have even the first experience that you are aware of the light of God interceding on your behalf, you begin to realize that there is no place, no condition, no circumstance of life that you would want to be that is not in the guiding direction of your mighty I Am presence. Oh, it may seem tempting for a time to try to straddle two worlds, but you will find that one will eventually win out. Which one? The one that you give the most attention to, the one where you funnel your energy that is entrusted to you daily by the presence, the one that cries the loudest oft times gets the most attention. So you must take heed to not neglect loving your mighty I Am presence, engaging in devotion, prayer, decree, affirmation with the mighty I Am presence, bending the knee before your altar in supplication to surrender to that presence of God. Your mighty I Am presence is the all in all of your being. When you commit to this way of life, your outer life begins to reflect the higher vibration and inner life of your own Holy Christ presence. Your stature changes. You stand taller. Your eyes are clearer. You have a buoyancy about you that was not known before. The natural joy of the upliftment of the threefold flame of the heart that comes about when the Holy Christ presence expands the flame upon the altar of your heart and fills your chalice with the being of God. You will have those of worldly nature argue that somehow you are missing life. It is passing you by. But in no era of the earth could that have ever occurred, no matter how great event might have happened, no matter what beauty, what exhilaration, what experience. There is no experience higher than the communion with your God presence. When we the brotherhood of light, release the charge of our momentum and God consciousness to assist you upon the path. It is with the hope and, yes, the faith that it will lead you closer to your own mighty I Am presence, opening a pathway that you will follow again and again until that conduit of light that is the natural estate of your inner communion with the mighty I Am presence through the heart flame becomes fixed as a point of God reality that no thing, no outer force of any sort could ever tear you away from. As the action of God comes upon you and displaces layer after layer of the substance of your humanity, you begin to realize and reflect more of the presence that is your true self, the one that you have always searched for, the one you had hoped would come. That is the Christ, the coming to be, that all have spoken of. When the Manus stretch forth their hand, there is a pathway of light that is established to the great central sun. Those who desire on our coming to follow that pathway into the Akashic record of their life before the first incarnation, so they may be imbued once more with the insight of why their presence elected to incarnate. What were the instructions of the specific Manu? What were the desires of the heart to be fulfilled? All that is available to you when the Manus come for only a short time. Let your consciousness soar into the heart of your mighty I Am presence and partake of the transfer of the record. Should you not be able to recall it immediately, at some time in the future, it will come forth, and you will remember. Allow for the fullness of the divine direction of your respective Manu to assist you in the fulfillment of your Christhood. Then when you come to the completion of your cycle and the presence trumpets the call for you to return home, the holy angels sing, the light streams forth, and you are drawn up into a whirlwind action of your own threefold flame, ignited by the Ascension current. That blessed day will mark a victory that you cannot begin to appreciate at present. But trust me when I tell you, it is like no other victory. Throughout your many incarnations, there have been many milestones where you have achieved certain of life's lessons, attainment garnered, mastery achieved. But the greatest of all attainments and mastery comes to a culmination when you step into the Ascension flame. Let your vision hold that divine opportunity so that you lose not the sight of the presence of God waiting to draw these vehicles up in a glorious light of God. Think not that it sounds too easy. To speak of a thing is ofttimes simple. To achieve it takes great mastery, striving, and attainment. I, the great divine director, will respond to your calls for help and assistance. Should you need a greater release of purity in your life, of the white fire of the Mother Light, and the will of God to direct you straightway to the fulfillment of your destiny. Hold fast. Be of good cheer. The victory will come at the appointed hour. You must hold on and stay the course, no matter what. For the guiding hand of your mighty I Am Presence and the entire spirit of the Brotherhood of Light support you, protect you, love you. Go forth from this day forward, knowing that the divine direction for your life stream is as close as the flame upon the altar of your heart. The protective shield is the garment of your Holy Christ presence, wrapped round about you as a charge of light. And the direction comes from the mind of God, your own mighty I Am Presence. Follow your star, and you will return home.